Right.
Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Authors Love Bookstores from a Mighty Blaze. I'm your host, Joe Moldover, author of the novel Every Moment After, and I am so happy to be here with you today. And today, I am thrilled to welcome author Bethanne Patrick. Bethanne is a writer, an author, and a critic. Her monthly column appears in the Washington Post. Her book reviews and author profiles appear in the Los Angeles Times, Poets and Writers Magazine, and on NPR Books, among others. The author of 2 books for National Geographic and editor of an anthology for Reagan Arts, Bethanne is currently writing a memoir for Counterpoint Press. She is a board member at Penn Faulkner and 1455 Lit Arts, and tweets at @thebookmaven, and created the hashtag Friday Reads. Hello, Bethanne.
Thanks, Joe. Hello to you, and thanks so much for having me today.
We're delighted to have you, and we're also delighted to have Eileen McGarvey from One More Page Books. Welcome, Eileen.
Hi, thank you for thank you for having me on. And Bethanne, as always, it's wonderful to see you, and it's nice to meet you, Joe.
It's great to meet you. Eileen, we want our viewers to learn more about your bookstore, so I've got a couple of questions that I want to begin by running by you.
Sure.
The first is, you are located in Arlington, Virginia. What can you tell us about the community that you serve?
We are right outside of Washington, D.C., and our building actually sits literally on the border of Arlington and Falls Church here in Virginia. We have a wonderful, wonderful community. We do a lot of work with the local libraries, putting on programs and working with them. And, you know, we're fortunate that this is just a very, a community where people really love to read and really love to talk about books. And so it's great because then our store kind of can become a place where people come together to talk about books, because oftentimes people will run into someone they know when they're here at the store and they'll start talking about books, or they'll actually meet somebody new because they like to read the same kind of books. So it's a very, friendly neighborhood, a very literate neighborhood, and just a real community feel to the area.
That's great. And I understand that you are coming up on your 10-year anniversary.
We are, yeah, it'll be 10 years in January. So kind of when you first start out, you just never, getting through the first year is hard enough.
Tell us the history. Tell us about how and when you founded the store.
So we founded the store in January 2011. It was not an auspicious time to start a new business because it was kind of right when everything was crashing around us in the stock market. But it was something that I had long wanted to do. I did not have any background in the book business when I opened the store. I had been working on doing like marketing and consulting for high-tech companies. But when I was in high school, I was a page on a bookmobile, if anyone knows what those are. Mm-hmm. So someday we will have a One More Page bookmobile. And I just always loved to read. And I just decided that the time was right to give it a shot. And if it worked, that would be wonderful. But if it didn't, at least I know that I had given it a try.
Yeah, I love bookmobiles. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so great. So we all wish that we were there with you. But tell us, since we're not, tell us something unique or different about your store, or something that you would want us to know about your store.
It is really hard to pick just one.
Well, tell us a few things.
Okay. Well, as we were discussing earlier, our tagline is we take books, wine, and chocolate much more seriously than we take ourselves. So ever since we've opened, we've sold wine and gourmet chocolate and books together, because those happen to be 3 of my favorite things and 3 things that go well together. And so that's really worked out very well for us, because I like to think of the wine sometimes as a stealth way of getting people into the store, because they might just come by to pick up some wine and maybe they'll hear an author talk and they'll decide to sit down and stay, which occasionally has happened, but it's kind of our stealthy way in. President Obama and his daughters visited us in 2012 for Small Business Saturday. And we have a little Roomba and our Roomba has a its own Twitter account, and it has more likes than or more followers than me personally. So our Roomba is very popular.
One more Roomba.
One more Roomba.
Oh my gosh, those are three amazing fun facts. What was it like when President Obama came to your store? Was that sort of a big deal, or did he just kind of stroll in and pick up a paperback?
It was, well, it was totally unexpected. We
Yeah.
got about 10 minutes notice, and somebody says that to you, and you're like, what? And then it just kind of was a whirl when he showed up very soon after we were told, and he was delightful. His daughters were lovely. He was buying a lot of Christmas presents, so he had a little list of books that he was supposed to get for Christmas presents for his nephews and niece. And in the very short time that he was in our store, you know, just these huge crowds of people had gathered outside. And when he walked out the door, it was like, I don't even know who to compare it to, but it was just such a roar went up from everyone. So I was just so kind of overwhelmed, though I couldn't even check him out. I had someone else do it. I just knew I would not be able to,
Wow.
to keep it together for that.
Oh my gosh. You're making me want chocolate and wine and another president. So, so
We can help you with some of that.
yeah. We do this series because independent bookstores are going through a uniquely difficult time during the COVID crisis. And I wonder if you would tell us a little bit about how your bookstore has adapted and what you're doing.
Yes, it's, you know, independent bookstores are kind of founded around community and bringing people together. And what's challenging about this is because now we're trying to keep people apart. But as we had to change pretty quickly on a dime, like I think most stores did. We actually, we do an annual teen book festival where we get close to 1,000 attendees. And it was actually scheduled right when everything started shutting down, and we had authors flying in from around the country. And so it was a really tough decision to make, to have to cancel this festival that people have put like 9 months of work into, but you know, it had to be done. And basically we just decided one day that, you know, for the safety of our staff and for our customers, that we needed to close. And we were just, like many stores, I think, overwhelmed with the online response to people, you know, wanting to support us, but also, you know, wanting reading material, wanting puzzles and things like that. So you kind of quickly turn from a bookstore into almost a shipping and fulfillment center, where you just have tables where you're packing boxes and receiving things. And I mean, it allows us to stay in business, but we don't really get to do what we like to do, which is talk to people about books.
Yeah.
And I think that when it started, I'm not sure anybody expected that would still be going on after all this time. But like I said, we're very fortunate that we've had very good support from our community to help us pay our bills, because it's actually a lot more work now than it was before, because it's not someone coming in and picking up a book and then walking out with it. It's, you know, packing it up, getting it to the post office, or we do home delivery. So we do home delivery, we do pickup at the curbside, and we do shipping. So I have done many a drive through the area. I've seen parts of the town that I've never seen before doing my deliveries.
Right.
I've been to Bethanne's house
Right.
and dropped things off.
Yeah, it was a funny day when my local independent bookseller showed up at my house with a package. It was kind of like a strange collision of worlds. I usually go to her, and but anyway, Bethanne, I want to turn to you. So you selected One More Page Books to be featured today. Tell us why you love this bookstore.
Oh, okay. Do we have an hour just for me? Well,
Much time as you want.
just a quick personal note. One of the things I've always wanted in my life was to have a bookstore within walking distance of my house. That would have been, you know, Eileen was talking about being a teenager, you know, and what she did with the bookmobile. I wanted a bookstore, and the closest bookstore when I was growing up was 45 minutes away. And I grew up in the Hudson Valley. It's kind of a mountainous region. You know, your parents don't want to drive in the winter. Like, I never got there. It was very sad. Still love that store. It's sadly closed, but I've been waiting for years and years to have a bookstore near where I lived. So in 2011, when One More Page opened, but well, before it opened, I lived in Arlington. I live probably 2 miles away right now. I mean, it's not even that very far. I just live in McLean, Virginia instead. Like they're on the border. I'm sort of on the border of McLean and Arlington. But I was down in this little area, this little shopping area, because there's a restaurant that I love there, and I looked across the street and I saw this sign that said "One More Page Books opening soon," and I literally ran across the street and started knocking on the glass before I leave. Yes, you were not open. She's working. She's busy. But, I met her. I introduced myself. I started gushing, as is my wont, and saying, I cannot wait. And so I've been a friend of the store ever since. In fact, my first book with Nat Geo came out in 2009. So I didn't have anything particular go on when that book was released. But when my second book, An Uncommon History of Common Courtesy, came out, I made sure that I got to have my book party at One More Page. That was really important to me. I work with Loyalty Books in Silver Spring in DC. I work with Politics and Prose. I work with East City Books, etc. All of these different stores in the area. But One More Page is my bookstore.
Oh,
it's mine.
thank
And
you.
you're so welcome. And as Eileen knows, we actually lived a few doors down on our street from one of her cousins. And I started bringing my girls to One More Page. I bring friends to One More Page. I drag them in when they don't know about it. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, people meet up. I might go into One More Page and see Richard Peabody, who publishes Gargoyle magazine. I might see, another author friend like Alma Katsu, who wrote her latest book is called The Deep. You never know who you're going to run into. But the thing is, even if you don't run into anyone, you're going to start to know Eileen and all of the other crew at the store, because they really are that friendly. They really are that willing. If you just want to talk about chocolate, fine. But if you want to talk about mystery, if you want to talk about children's books, they are there for you. And yes, they've been making, stoop deliveries to our house during these difficult times of isolation. And it's just fantastic. In fact, I'm due to make another order.
That's great. I want to talk to the two of you a little bit about author events, because those can be they can be lots of different things. They can be exciting, they can be interesting, they can be strange. Eileen, I wonder if you have any memories of author events at your store that you would care to share. Anything that was sort of especially especially noteworthy or memorable.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, one that immediately comes to mind is one of our staffers actually wrote a young adult novel that came out last June.
Oh, give us the name. We'll put it in the feed. What is it?
Oh, it is. It's The Beholder by Anna Bright from HarperCollins, and it was just so special because I kind of feel like we were on the journey with her. Obviously, she wrote this beautiful book herself, but there's just a lot of, and Bethanne knows this well. There's just so much that goes on from manuscript to when a book actually comes out. And there's many different steps, each one of them fraught with anxiety, I'm sure. and so yeah, so we were on that journey with her. So I think we all kind of felt, very invested in the book. And so we just kind of, for her launch party last year, pulled out all the stops, everything, and her family, flew in, and the follow-up book to that, The Boundless, came out this past June. So we were sorry that we weren't able to have such a huge party for her, but we were still able to celebrate with her virtually. But I'd say that, that one, just because it was so near and dear and personal to us.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Bethanne, do you have a event memory or observation or?
Gosh, I've done some really fun events at One More Page, and some are bigger, some are smaller, but it's the ones that I remember are the ones where we just sort of laugh all the way through, right? Those are so great. However, pivot, I have done a couple of events with our dearly beloved, and why am I blanking? Why am I blanking in the middle of this? Sarah, historical novelist, Sarah.
Oh, not Sarah McCoy.
Yes, Sarah McCoy. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Sarah McCoy, our beloved Sarah McCoy, had a book out called The Map Maker's Daughter. And I did an event. It was a conversation between the two of us. And one of the things in the book that was highly personal was about infertility. And I hadn't been planning to go into an entire conversation about it, but we did. And Sarah was incredibly open and vulnerable and honest. And she wound up crying. And I probably did too, Eileen. I don't even remember, but it was so moving and such a fantastic example to me. Not of it had nothing to do with tearing someone down. She is a wonderful person and a friend. It was everything about opening up the right way and learning something so crucial to the book and to the author that it truly made the book a special reading experience. I'll never forget that. It's one of my all-time. I do author interviews so often, but that is one of the ones, and it was at One More Page that was most special to me.
I was just going to say, I think that is one of the things, and Bethanne, I know you're so often in conversation with people and you're good at doing that, is that at a good author event you really learn something about the author that really does help you read their book and understand their book in a different way, because they're really putting themselves out there with their book, and a good person to be in conversation with, like Bethanne, is someone who can bring that out.
That was really special. So always available for One More Page.
We've got a couple of questions coming in. I'm going to start to route got some reading questions, we've got some writing questions. Bethanne, this is for you after this is for me. I'm butting in front of the online audience. I'm going to ask a question that I have because I can. I read in an interview with you that you are an astoundingly fast reader, and that you especially trained yourself to be a reader in your graduate program in literature, which was true for my wife as well. She's a master's in literature and became just an incredibly fast reader. And you read a tremendous number of books for your work. My question for you is, when you're just going to read for fun, when you just kind of need like a palate cleanser, like if you're on vacation or you just want something to just decompress with, like, what do you reach for?
Oh, such a good question. Which of course has many answers, but the first one is, and Eileen will love this, mystery. Absolutely. And I love almost any kind of mystery, but I'm especially happy when it's something that's very Anglophilic, because that's just what I came up on. A beloved aunt, when I was around 10 or 11, introduced me to Agatha Christie's books. And, that is, as far as I'm concerned, that is a very healthy way to get through adolescence, is reading Agatha Christie, right? There's plenty of poison and guns and things like that, but there's, not a lot of sex and not a lot of gore. So anyway, the golden age, Nail Marsh, Marjorie Allingham, all of those writers, anyone who's like them. And so now I read tons of Louise Penny. I just finished, All the Devils Are Here. It's fantastic. Everyone, it's set in Paris. It's her latest gamache, but they're out of Three Pines for a little while. Love that. I also loved recently, and I've been talking about this on the socials, Codename Hélène by Ariel Lawn, which is a fantastic historical novel that is sort of a mystery. It's about a woman who was an Australian named Nancy Wake. And she actually, I don't want to give too much away, at one point had 7,000 French resistance fighters under her command.
Wow.
She's 32 years old. Okay, this is just a great book. And Nancy Wig is the most decorated woman anywhere in the world from World War II. So everyone has to read Codename Hélène. And then my third one, and then I'll stop right now, is Moonflower Murders by Anthony Horowitz, which is, I can't remember which month, I think November. And the reason I love this book and want to give it a little shout out is because Horowitz has been doing all kinds of fun things with mysteries. Did you read him, Eileen?
Yeah, I have. Trish reads him.
Yeah, but he's been doing all kinds of little things. But Moonflower Murders is like, there's a mystery, it's modern day England, but then there's a book that is a 1930s golden age mystery that is inside the book. So you're reading along, and then you get this entire second book in the book.
Is that the Magpie Murders?
No, the Magpie Murders is one of his. This is Moonflower Murders.
Okay.
And you have to read the book inside the book if you want to have any hope of solving the mystery.
Right.
But I mean, what a pleasure. Like, it really is two books in one. And so that's what I turn to. And another palate cleanser that always works for me is to read, oh gosh, see, I'm having another one of those senior moments, Eileen. Barbara Pym's books, which are just lovely, very quiet stories about people who are kind of lonely in the 60s and 70s in England. They're quite different. And she's got a little bit of an acerbic touch, but there's those books turn the page for me, if you will, and allow me to go on with the other new frontless things that I have to read for work.
Yeah, that's great. Somebody in the audience wants to know how many books you read in a year. Do you have a number?
And so many of them I get from one more page. I keep a running list, and right now I'm a little behind this year. I am at about 110. Normally at this point in the year, I'd be closer to 130, but COVID is yeah. So normally I read about 180 to 200 books a year, and I am surpassed in that definitely by my colleague and fellow critic and author, Sarah Weinman, who I believe reads at least 250, if not more.
My gosh, that's unbelievable.
So I believe me, I am not the queen.
Eileen, we have a question for you. What have you been choosing to read during the pandemic?
Well, anyone who knows me knows that I read a lot of high body count mysteries, psychological thrillers. My reading choices are not what everybody would want to read. So I do continue to read those. I have actually read a cozy or two. I just read Sherry Harris's new book, From Beer to Eternity, and that was good. But I've kind of stuck with what I've been reading. Now I do listen to a lot of audiobooks, and when I'm listening to audiobooks, I listen to different genres. And right now, I've really been enjoying Circe, which I had never read when it came out, and I've just it's not something I probably would have picked up, except I heard so many great things about it from customers and staff. And so I think for my non-violent mystery reading, I listen to it. I'm not sure what that says about me.
It's a wonderful audiobook, and Song of Achilles is also a wonderful audiobook.
Oh, I bet it is. Yeah, I'm loving Circe. I'm almost done.
High body count thriller an actual marketing term?
Say that again?
Is a high body count thriller an actual marketing term?
No, that's my marketing term.
That's how you characterize it.
I really like Ionesco and Lars Kepler. And
Yes. I've spoken about mysteries at the Smithsonian once or twice, and so I put up like a dagger count is kind of how I help people understand what they are, so they're not rudely surprised.
Are mysteries kind of what you reach for as well?
Oh yes, that's my genre of choice, and I embrace it.
That's awesome. That's great. We just interviewed Murder by the Book in Houston, the mystery bookstore. It was a lot of fun.
if it's when you first open a store, you feel like you should know, like you should read everything in it. But I am not a fast reader like Bethanne. And so I have just decided to embrace my mystery love, and am thankful that other people in the store read all these other awesome books and can talk about them.
Bethanne, what is it like to be a critic who is also producing your own work? How do you find that those two roles interact as a critic and an author?
It's interesting because I was just talking to someone this morning about, PR and marketing plan for my book, because yes, you do start talking about that very early, way before publication. And I said, oh, if I'm working, with you, person X, does that mean that I can't, work on any of the books that you're pitching? Is it a conflict of interest? And I was assured that it is not, but that's something I'm always trying to make sure I'm careful about, because I have made errors in the past that were truly through ignorance and not being careful enough. And I think we do have to be careful. We do have to think about, for instance, you wouldn't want to read a takedown of a novel by, an author that I personally hated. I mean, well, it might be funny, but but that's not fair play, and it's also not fair play if I just, review a friend, or, if like my husband wrote a book and I wrote, a glowing review of that, that's not fair play either. So I'm constantly juggling, what do I want to review? Because when I do have reviews assigned to me by newspapers or magazines, I try not to talk about those books on social media until the reviews are out, because I don't want to slip up and say, oh my God, I love this book. And then that ruins, the publication's deadline and everything. So it is constantly a balancing act. And I think I talked about this recently, and I don't know where I talked about it. I cover quite a few books a month. I cover between 20 and 25, which is probably the most an individual can do without, going off the rails. I will check back with me. I'll ask if you do. But, I do try to keep track of things. I recently actually started keeping better track so that I would make sure I didn't overlap anything. So look, I have the best job in the world. I am very happy with it. So anything I say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm not complaining. I'm just talking about it. So
yeah. Have you been able to be productive during the pandemic, or has it made it difficult for you to write and to edit?
Actually, I've been really productive, and that is not to say to anyone else out there, why aren't you? The reason it's very, very, I know why I've been productive, because even though I'm here smiling and chatting, I am the biggest introvert who presents as an extrovert. It has been so wonderful for me not to have to go anywhere, not to have meetings, not to have to, get dressed and go out in the world. All of my energy has been on my work. That's why. That's the only, it's not because the, isolation is good for everyone, or because the pandemic is a good thing. It's only because for me, energy wise, it's worked. It's going to be a difficult transition. Once we have a vaccine, and please, it's going to be difficult for me to get out again, and start doing things. I'm going to be, who knows? I might not. I might become the hermit of McLean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We are starting to run down on time. It's so wonderful to talk to the two of you. Eileen, we want our audience to know what they can do to support One More Page Books. You are doing curbside, mail, home delivery.
Yep. And we, I think just, going and ordering books or puzzles or chocolate, is great. Say that again.
Have them sign up for Patreon.
Oh yes, we have a Patreon program, and you get really cool. Fun, videos and information about us. We also are, do a lot of not not a lot, but we've been working with some of the local schools and organizations to do like book donation boxes, and people select, like a package, and we work with the PTAs to get those books distributed, because I think that's one of the tough things right now is, trying to get the books in hands of kids who might not have them. And we, can't just go and put them out somewhere, because you first of all, you'd be bringing all these people together, and they have worked out a process to get these books in the hands of the kids. So those kinds of things, and just, hey, think good thoughts for us too, just like we think for everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. So people should head to onemorepagebooks.com.
That's it. Yep, one more page.
And to Patreon to support you. Viewers also head to Bethanne's website, bethannepatrick.com, for updates on her critical work and her also forthcoming memoir. Bethanne, remind me when we are looking for that?
In 2022.
2022.
Its title is Life B. So it's a memoir. I'm just a caveat lector. It's a memoir about depression. It is not a bookish memoir. It is not about all of these things on the shelves behind me, but that's okay. I will definitely be, on the shelves, I hope, at One More Page in 2022.
Yes, very much looking forward to it.
And hopefully by that time we'll be able to get together and enjoy chocolate and wine and books in person.
Please.
Such a pleasure to speak with the two of you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Joe.
Absolutely. To our online audience, thank you for joining us. Join us here again next Wednesday for more of a Muddy Blazers Authors Love Bookstores. It's a mouthful. Until then, I'm Joe Moldover. Thank you for being here. Stay healthy and keep reading.